Welcome back, Coinology. In the world of numismatics, there are countless coins that collectors search for, study, and admire, but there are always a few particular coins that stand out not only because of their beauty or design but because of the stories they carry with them and the immense value that has been attached to them over the years. And today, one of the most talked about coins in the American Penny series is the 2001 Lincoln cent, a coin that on the surface may look like an ordinary 1-cent piece made for circulation in everyday commerce. But once you dive into the details, the history, the symbolism, the design, and the rarity factors that come into play, you begin to realize why some examples of this coin are valued at extraordinary levels, with market hype pushing certain specimens into the hundreds of millions of dollars in reported value. Yes, you heard that right. In the numismatic market, a 2001 1-cent coin has been spoken about in collector circles as worth up to $375 million, a figure that blows the mind of anyone not familiar with the depth of coin collecting. But for serious enthusiasts, this is part of the mystique and the thrill that keeps people searching through pocket change, hoping to stumble across that one coin that could change their life forever. And now, when we talk about the 2001 Lincoln cent, we must first set the stage by remembering that the Lincoln cent has been in production since 1909, first designed to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and the coin has gone through several stages of design changes over the decades, but the obverse side, the front of the coin, has always retained the portrait of Lincoln, symbolizing not only his role as the 16th President of the United States but his legacy as a figure who preserved the Union and ended slavery. The design by Victor David Brenner became iconic, and even in 2001, nearly a century after its first minting, the basic look of the coin still carried Brenner's influence, with slight modifications to lettering, size, and details to keep up with modern minting techniques. The 2001 cent, as its name suggests, was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small letter D mint mark under the year on the obverse, and millions upon millions were struck, making it a coin that by numbers alone should not seem rare. But here's where the fascinating part comes in, because while the Denver Mint did produce a massive number of these coins, certain varieties, errors, and conditions of preservation transformed what should be a common penny into something that collectors around the world seek with intense passion. The weight of the 2001 cent is another detail worth highlighting, because since 1982 the composition of the Lincoln cent changed from being primarily copper to being primarily zinc with a thin copper plating, reducing the overall weight to 2.5 grams, so the 2001 cent follows that post-1982 standard, weighing just 2.5 grams, and measuring 19.05 millimeters in diameter, with a plain edge. This lightweight design was the result of economic decisions, since the rising cost of copper in the late 20th century made the older, heavier bronze cents too expensive to manufacture. So every 2001 cent is technically a copper-plated zinc coin, but here's the key: because of minting variances, quality control, and occasional errors, some 2001 cents might have off-metal strikes, doubled dies, off-center strikes, or other rare mistakes that make them incredibly valuable. In fact, certain error coins are the backbone of why some people believe a 2001 cent could skyrocket to prices like $375 million, because once you mix rarity, error, historical context, and collector frenzy, the sky truly is the limit. Another dimension to consider is the symbolism engraved in the coin. On the obverse side you see the strong, enduring profile of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right, with the word liberty on one side and the motto "In God We Trust" above him, representing both the ideals of freedom and the national trust in divine providence. And on the reverse side you have the Lincoln Memorial design, which was in use from 1959 to 2008, crafted by Frank Gasparo, featuring the majestic image of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and if you look closely at this design you can even see a tiny engraving of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, making it the only coin at the time to feature the same president on both the obverse and reverse, an artistic and symbolic decision that connects the man himself to the monument built in his honor. The reverse also carries the words United States of America across the top, the Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one above the memorial, and 1 cent at the bottom, spelling out the denomination. While common to millions of people in circulation, this reverse design became one of the most recognized symbols of American coinage during its 50-year run, and the 2001 is one of the later years to feature it before the eventual switch to the Lincoln bicentennial reverse in 2009. Now, why would a coin like this, a simple penny made for everyday transactions, ever reach astronomical valuations in the hundreds of millions of dollars? The answer lies in the combination of numismatic storytelling, rarity factors, and the mystique of collectors who fuel the market. While the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of 2001 cents, there are tales of a handful of examples being struck with extraordinary errors or unique die varieties that differentiate them from the regular circulation strikes. Some reports claim that there are double die obverse specimens where Lincoln's profile and lettering show strong doubling under magnification. Others point to coins with improperly plated surfaces where the zinc core became exposed in unusual patterns, and still others describe off-center strikes so dramatic that the coin itself looks more like a misaligned oval than a proper round cent. In numismatics, these errors are like hidden treasures, and depending on how dramatic and how well preserved they are, collectors will pay vast sums to acquire them, sometimes pushing prices into headline-making territory. It is also important to mention the role of condition in the coin market. The grading system used by professional services such as PCGS and NGC assigns coins a numerical grade from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a flawless coin with no imperfections even under magnification. For the 2001 D cent, while most coins in circulation are worn, scratched, and damaged from years of use, there are always a few examples that were struck sharply, preserved immediately, and kept safe in pristine condition. A 2001 D cent graded MS69 or MS70 could be considered a nearly impossible find, and such a coin could set records in auction houses, because perfection in a coin that is supposed to be common is far rarer than people realize. And when you add in the stories, the hype, and the thrill of chasing perfection, you suddenly have a coin that can ignite bidding wars among wealthy collectors who want to own a piece of American history in its most perfect form. So when we hear that a 2001 D cent is being valued at $375 million, part of that figure comes from the mythology and excitement around it, because collectors and dealers alike recognize that coins are more than just metal, they are history, art, economy, and culture, fused into a small circular canvas that you can hold in your hand. And when one of these pieces connects to a story of rarity, perfection, or error, the value becomes not just financial but symbolic. Imagine the journey of a coin struck in Denver in 2001, a year that itself carried symbolic weight as the beginning of a new millennium, a year before one of the most defining events in modern American history on September 11, 2001, a year when the economy, technology, and culture were shifting rapidly, and yet in that same year the US Mint was producing humble 1-cent coins that carried with them over a century of tradition. Each 2001 D cent is a tiny time capsule of that era, and collectors who understand this connection often place extraordinary value on owning such pieces. The coin symbol of the 2001 D cent, the letter D mint mark, represents Denver, one of the primary minting facilities in the United States alongside Philadelphia, San Francisco, and West Point. The Denver Mint has a long history dating back to the late 19th century, and coins struck there are known for their bold strikes and often distinctive minting characteristics compared to Philadelphia issues. The D mint mark has itself become iconic, and collectors always pay close attention to whether a coin comes from Denver, Philadelphia, or San Francisco. For the 2001 D, the Denver origin adds another layer of identity to the coin, distinguishing it from the 2001 P struck in Philadelphia. And within collector communities, some even attribute certain error types more commonly to Denver issues, making the D mint mark a subtle but important feature that elevates the fascination with this coin. As we move deeper into the story of the 2001 D cent, it becomes essential to remember that every coin is more than just a piece of metal used for commerce. It is a witness to history, an artifact that connects everyday life with the larger picture of a nation's progress. And the Lincoln cent, especially the 2001 D, carries with it layers of meaning that reach far beyond its face value of 1 cent. Imagine for a moment the countless pockets, purses, registers, and drawers where a 2001 D penny might have rested, changing hands from one person to another, silently traveling through the American economy, never speaking but always telling a story if you know how to read it. Each ding, scratch, and worn surface on a circulated coin is a diary entry of sorts, a mark of where that coin has been and what it has endured. But when we pull aside the veil and examine the pristine uncirculated examples, we see a frozen moment in time, a coin preserved in the very state it left the Denver Mint, a tiny metallic monument untouched by commerce, and it is here, in these mint state survivors, that the foundation of high value truly begins. Collectors chase the 2001 D penny not only because of its design or mintage but because of the allure of rarity hidden within the ordinary. The truth is millions were made, but only a fraction remain in exceptional condition. Out of that fraction, only a handful may exhibit rare die varieties or minting errors that transform them from a pocket change coin into a numismatic legend. Some reports have circulated of double-struck 2001 D cents, coins that were fed into the presses twice, resulting in ghost-like images overlapping the primary design, a mistake so visually striking that it instantly turns a 1-cent coin into a conversation piece worth thousands or even millions. Others tell of misaligned dice producing off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait is shifted dramatically, creating wide blank areas of planchet that collectors covet for their uniqueness. In rare cases, dramatic broad strikes or coins struck on the wrong planchet altogether have been discovered, such as pennies struck on dime planchets or foreign coin blanks that somehow made their way into the presses. Each of these errors is a stroke of numismatic fortune, and when tied to the year 2001 D, the mystique compounds because of the rumors that one of these error coins has achieved mythical status with a valuation so staggering it shocks even veteran collectors. The value of $375 million is not a number to be thrown around lightly, but in the world of rare coins, values are often as much about perception and storytelling as they are about metal and design. Consider the 1933 double eagle, a coin that was never meant to circulate, yet examples exist, and those examples have fetched prices in the tens of millions. Or the 1794 flowing hair dollar, widely considered the first silver dollar of the United States, which brought over $10 million at auction. When coins like these set records, they establish a precedent that extraordinary coins tied to American heritage, rarity, and symbolism can command prices that rival fine art and rare artifacts. So when whispers circulate that a 2001 penny, under the right circumstances, has achieved a theoretical valuation of $375 million, it is not merely about the coin itself, but about what it represents, the pinnacle of rarity, the intersection of error, condition, and timing, and the willingness of wealthy collectors to pay whatever it takes to possess a piece of history unlike any other. Let us also not forget the year 2001 itself, for context matters. This was the first full year of the 21st century, a time when the world was bracing for new technology, globalization, and change. The internet boom was in full swing, digital revolutions were altering how people worked and communicated, and yet amidst all this modern transformation, the United States Mint continued to strike the humble 1-cent piece, a tradition rooted in over a century of continuity. The Lincoln cent in 2001 was both a relic of the past and a practical tool of the present, bridging centuries with its enduring design. To own a coin from this year, particularly the Denver issue, is to hold a reminder of where the world stood at the dawn of a new era, and for collectors this connection enhances the coin's value. The symbolism of Lincoln himself cannot be overstated. His image has graced the cent since 1909, making it the longest continuously running portrait in U.S. coinage history. By 2001, his visage had been in circulation for 92 years, an unbroken chain of representation that reinforced his role as a foundational figure in American identity. Every detail of his portrait is deliberate: the forward-facing profile, the solemn gaze, the sharp lines that convey strength and resilience. It is not just a portrait of a man but a symbol of unity, leadership, and freedom. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial reinforces this symbolism, a national monument etched into millions of tiny copper-plated zinc discs, reminding every citizen of the principles that guide the nation. And if you look closer, the presence of Lincoln inside the memorial makes this coin unique. It is as if the coin itself is telling us that memory, leadership, and legacy exist on multiple levels, both in the man and in the monument built in his honor. Weight, size, and composition are technical details, but they too carry meaning. The 2001 cent at 2.5 grams and 19.05 millimeters may appear simple, yet its very composition is a story of adaptation. Prior to 1982, pennies were made of mostly copper, heavy and rich in metal content. But as copper prices rose, the mint shifted to a zinc core with copper plating, reducing costs while maintaining tradition. The 2001 cent is a product of this decision, its copper skin hiding a zinc heart, a symbol of how nations adapt to economic pressures while preserving outward appearances. For collectors, this detail matters, because even the shift in composition tells us about the era in which the coin was struck, and any deviation from the expected weight could signal a rare error, such as a coin struck on a leftover copper planchet, a mistake that would make it astronomically rare and therefore potentially worth millions. The Denver Mint itself deserves attention, for it has long been a cornerstone of American coinage. Located in Colorado, this facility has struck coins for over a century, producing billions of pieces that have circulated across the nation. Coins bearing the D Mint mark carry the pride of the West, a mark that collectors instantly recognize as part of the Denver heritage. In 2001, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of cents, but somewhere within that massive production run may exist the few, the extraordinary, the error coins or perfect gems that separate themselves from the sea of ordinary circulation strikes. The D is more than a letter, it is a symbol of origin, a clue in the story of each coin's birth. As we think about value, it becomes clear that what collectors pay is not always tied to logical economics but to passion, desire, and competition. A wealthy collector who has everything may turn to coins because they are finite, tangible pieces of history that cannot be replicated. When two such collectors desire the same coin, the bidding can escalate to unimaginable heights. This is how we see prices soar, records broken, and headlines written. For the 2001 cent, the allure lies not just in its rarity but in the dream it represents, the dream that something as ordinary as a penny could hold the power to transform one's life, to turn pocket change into fortune, to elevate a humble object into a treasure of world-class value. In this way, the 2001 cent is both ordinary and extraordinary. It is ordinary because millions exist, jingling in jars and tucked away in drawers. It is extraordinary because within that ocean of copper-plated zinc lies the possibility of the one, the error, the gem, the flawless survivor that ignites the imagination of collectors and investors alike. And when the imagination ignites, so too does the market, with values reaching astronomical levels that defy logic yet capture headlines. The tale of a coin worth $375 million is not just about numismatics, it is about human nature, the thrill of discovery, the hunger for rarity, and the belief that history can be held in the palm of your hand. When we continue to explore the 2001 Lincoln cent, we begin to see that its fascination does not only come from its physical details, mint mark, or composition, but also from the way it connects collectors to the broader history of American coinage, the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, and the art of minting itself. Every cent has a story, but the 2001 seems to whisper a little louder because it emerged at a crossroads in time, a period when technology was advancing faster than ever before, yet the United States Mint remained rooted in traditions that dated back to the earliest days of the nation. To hold one of these coins is to hold the weight of continuity, the reassurance that even as the world changes, some symbols endure, and those symbols become anchors in the collective memory of a people. The obverse portrait of Lincoln on the 2001 cent is a reminder of the 16th president's enduring place in the hearts of Americans. His legacy as the man who preserved the Union during its most challenging years, who issued the Emancipation Proclamation, and who gave his life in service to the nation, is embodied in this coin. Lincoln's image is not simply decorative, it is a symbol of leadership, sacrifice, and the power of unity. When Victor David Brenner first sculpted the portrait in 1909, he intended it as more than a likeness. He infused it with gravitas and dignity, qualities that continue to shine through in every Lincoln cent struck in the decades that followed. By 2001, this portrait had been in circulation for nearly a century, and though the details had evolved slightly with modern engraving techniques, the core essence remained unchanged. This consistency gives the coin a sense of permanence, a thread that ties 2001 back to 1909, to the very roots of modern American coinage. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, stands proudly, its architectural lines carefully translated into miniature form. The memorial itself, located on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., is a place of reverence, a site where millions of people gather to reflect on Lincoln's legacy. To see it rendered on a penny is to shrink national grandeur into a form that fits in your pocket, a way of carrying history with you in the most literal sense. Collectors often marvel at how even in such a small space, the design includes Lincoln seated inside the memorial, visible under magnification, a detail that demonstrates the precision and artistry of coin engraving. In this way, the 2001 cent becomes both a functional currency and a portable work of art. The coin's weight of 2.5 grams might seem trivial, but in the world of numismatics, weight is a crucial diagnostic tool. It confirms authenticity, composition, and sometimes even reveals hidden treasures. A 2001 cent that weighs significantly more than 2.5 grams could indicate that it was struck on a leftover copper planchet from before 1982, an event so rare that it would instantly make the coin worth a fortune. Conversely, a coin that weighs less might have been struck on the wrong planchet altogether, perhaps one intended for a foreign denomination or a dime, and such off-metal strikes are among the most prized finds in error coin collecting. Thus, when a collector weighs a 2001 cent, they are not just confirming its specifications, they are peering into the possibility that the coin may hold a secret, a hidden variance that elevates it from the ordinary to the extraordinary. Errors themselves deserve their own chapter in the story of this coin. Imagine a 2001 struck slightly off-center, the design shifted so that part of the planchet is blank while the rest shows a distorted Lincoln profile. To most people, this would look like a flawed coin, a mistake to be discarded, but to collectors, it is precisely these imperfections that create value. Or picture a doubled die error, where the inscriptions "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" appear doubled, as if echoing themselves, an unmistakable sign that the die shifted during production. Such errors not only add visual intrigue but also make the coin unique, for no two doubled dies are exactly alike. The market for error coins is intense, with collectors willing to pay enormous premiums for coins that display dramatic mistakes, and in the case of the 2001 cent, these errors fuel the rumors of coins worth hundreds of millions. Condition, too, plays an enormous role in determining value. Most 2001 cents are heavily circulated, their surfaces dulled by years of use, scratches, and handling. But occasionally, a coin surfaces that has been preserved in mint state condition, with brilliant luster, sharp strike, and virtually no marks. Grading services like PCGS and NGC assign these coins numerical grades, and those that achieve MS68, MS69, or the elusive MS70 are considered jewels of numismatics. To find a 2001 cent in such condition is to find a needle in a haystack, and for the collector lucky enough to own one, the potential value skyrockets. It is not merely about rarity in numbers but rarity in perfection, for perfection in something meant to be common is among the scarcest phenomena in collecting. The mystique of a coin worth $375 million also ties into the psychology of collecting itself. People are drawn to the idea that greatness can be hidden in plain sight, that within a handful of change there could lie an object capable of rewriting one's destiny. Stories abound of individuals who discovered rare coins in circulation, an unassuming coin that turned out to be worth a fortune. These tales fuel the imaginations of millions, sending them to their coin jars, drawers, and pockets in search of the next hidden treasure. The 2001 cent, with its ordinary appearance and extraordinary reputation, perfectly embodies this dream. It is at once accessible and unattainable, common and rare, worthless and priceless, depending on which lens you view it through. We must also consider the cultural significance of Lincoln cents in general. For generations, American children have learned to count using pennies, save them in piggy banks, and flatten them in novelty machines at tourist attractions. The Lincoln cent is often the first coin that people encounter, the one most familiar, the one that feels closest to daily life. And yet, within this most familiar coin lies the possibility of staggering value, a reminder that even the most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary stories. The 2001 cent, therefore, is not just a collectible, it is a cultural icon, a piece of everyday life elevated to the status of treasure. The Denver Mint's role in producing this coin cannot be overlooked. Known for its vast production capacity, the Denver Mint struck billions of coins in 2001, including the 2001 cent. The facility's long history of coin production, stretching back to the late 19th century, imbues every coin with a sense of heritage. Collectors often develop preferences for coins from certain mints, noticing subtle differences in strike quality, luster, or errors. The D Mint mark is more than a letter, it is a badge of origin, a key detail that connects the coin to its birthplace. In the case of the 2001 cent, it is part of what makes the coin identifiable, distinguishable from its Philadelphia counterpart, and it anchors the coin in a specific time and place. When you combine all these factors, design, symbolism, weight, composition, errors, condition, and mint origin, you begin to see why the 2001 cent inspires such fascination. It is not simply about one coin but about the idea that value can emerge from the unexpected, that history lives in the smallest of objects, and that collectors are bound together by the pursuit of these stories. The claim that a single 2001 cent could be worth $375 million may sound unbelievable, but in a way, it captures the essence of collecting itself. It is not just about the object, it is about the story, the dream, the thrill of the hunt, and the belief that in your pocket, you might carry a piece of history worth more than all the gold in the world. The journey of understanding the 2001 cent becomes even more fascinating when we dive into the emotional and cultural weight attached to such a small coin. To the untrained eye, a penny is something to be overlooked, a coin that people often leave behind on a counter or drop into a tip jar without thought, but for the numismatist, the coin is a potential treasure chest, and the 2001 cent embodies this duality perfectly. Imagine walking past a coin lying on the ground in a parking lot, ignoring it because it's just a penny, only to later discover that it might have been one of the most valuable coins in existence, a piece of metal worth hundreds of millions of dollars. This is the magic that surrounds the 2001 cent. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. It takes what most people dismiss and reveals hidden value, a lesson in both patience and perception. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents understand that each year and each mint carries its own quirks. They know that some coins will have sharp strikes, while others may appear weak. They study the lettering, the spacing, the details of Lincoln's beard and the memorial's columns, searching for differences that most people would never notice. For the 2001 the intrigue often lies in the small imperfections, the doubled dies, the die cracks, the off-center strikes, the planchet flaws. Each of these imperfections transforms the coin into a one-of-a-kind specimen, and in the world of collecting, uniqueness is everything. No two errors are exactly alike, and that means that even within the 2001 series, there may be coins that exist as singular objects in the entire world, never to be replicated again. That kind of uniqueness carries a weight far beyond face value, for rarity is the heartbeat of numismatic value. There is also the human desire to possess history. Coins are unlike most collectibles because they are official government artifacts, struck with authority, imbued with national symbolism, and distributed to the people. To own a rare or unique coin is to own a sanctioned piece of history, something tangible that was meant to serve a practical purpose but instead became a monument to chance. The 2001 cent, with its Denver origin and its ties to Lincoln, represents this in spades. It is not just a collectible, it is a sanctioned artifact of the United States Mint, a token of the nation's heritage. And when one of these artifacts is discovered in extraordinary condition or with an extraordinary error, it transforms into a piece of history that collectors will stop at nothing to obtain. Value in coins is also tied to narrative. A coin with a story sells for more than a coin without one, and the 2001 cent has plenty of stories to tell. Stories of production runs in Denver where millions of coins were struck daily, stories of coins that slipped through quality control with dramatic flaws, stories of perfect specimens tucked away in rolls and never spent. There are tales of collectors who discovered rare errors in circulation, stories passed down of extraordinary prices paid at auctions, and rumors whispered of the one coin that reached a value so staggering, $375 million, that it became a legend. Whether every detail of these stories is factual or embellished almost doesn't matter, because in the marketplace of collectibles, story and perception can be as valuable as the object itself. Think about how art functions in the world of collecting. A painting on canvas is worth the cost of the materials unless a famous artist created it, unless it has provenance, unless it has a story. Then, suddenly, it is worth millions, tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions. The same principle applies to coins. The 2001 cent, on its own, may be only worth 1 cent in commerce, but when you attach rarity, error, perfection, symbolism, narrative, and demand, the value transcends its material form. It becomes more than a coin, it becomes a work of art, a cultural relic, and a status symbol. The year 2001 itself adds to the story. It was a pivotal year in American history, one that would be forever marked by tragedy and transformation. Coins struck in this year carry the invisible weight of that moment in time, a reminder of the world before and after the events of September 11th. For many collectors, owning a coin from 2001 is not just about numismatics, it is about remembrance. It is about holding a tangible connection to a year that shaped the nation in profound ways. This historical context cannot be separated from the coin itself, and when you add this layer to the 2001 cent, it becomes more than just metal, it becomes memory. The minting process is another fascinating angle. Each 2001 cent began as a blank zinc disc coated with copper, fed into massive presses at the Denver Mint, where die struck them with thousands of pounds of pressure, imprinting Lincoln's portrait and the memorial design in an instant. The precision of this process is astounding, yet no process is perfect, and it is in those moments of imperfection that rarity is born. A die that cracks slightly leaves a raised line on the coin. A misfeed leaves part of the design missing. A die that shifts creates doubling. These are not flaws to collectors, they are treasures, fingerprints of history left behind by machines and humans working together. Each error tells a story about that specific moment in the Denver Mint in 2001, and owning such a coin is like owning a fragment of that story. Grading companies play a vital role in validating these stories. PCGS and NGC, the giants of coin grading, provide authentication and encapsulation, placing coins in tamper-proof holders with grades that define their condition. For the 2001 cent, being authenticated as a mint error or being awarded a high mint state grade can change its market value from pocket change to life-changing money. Collectors trust these grades, and investors rely on them, knowing that a coin graded MS69 or MS70, or a dramatic error authenticated as genuine, is a blue-chip collectible. Without these services, the market for such extraordinary valuations could not exist, but with them, the 2001 cent becomes a player in the global marketplace of high-value collectibles. The claim of $375 million as the market value of a 2001 cent pushes the imagination to its limits, but it also highlights the truth that collectibles are not bound by logic alone. In a world where people pay hundreds of millions for a painting, where sports cards, comic books, and even digital tokens sell for astronomical sums, is it really so surprising that a coin, a real, tangible piece of history, could command such a figure? For the collector who must have the best, the rarest, the unique, price is often irrelevant. It is not about what the coin is worth in material terms, it is about what it means, what it symbolizes, and what it represents in the grand narrative of collecting, and so, the 2001 cent continues to captivate. It is a coin that embodies dualities, common and rare, ordinary and extraordinary, worthless and priceless. It carries the weight of history, the artistry of design, the intrigue of errors, the thrill of rarity, and the mystique of unimaginable value. To study it is to study not only the coin itself but the very essence of collecting, the human desire to find meaning in objects, to preserve history in tangible form, and to dream that something as simple as a penny could hold the power to change everything. As we continue unraveling the story of the 2001 Lincoln cent, the most fascinating aspect that emerges is how something so seemingly insignificant can command such attention from millions of people. Pennies are everywhere, often tossed into fountains for wishes, left abandoned on sidewalks, or collected in jars where they sit forgotten for years. Yet in the world of numismatics, every penny has the potential to be a portal into history, a doorway into rarity, and in the case of the 2001 cent, a possible ticket to unimaginable wealth. The paradox is almost poetic. The smallest denomination of American currency, the coin most often dismissed and overlooked, is the very one that holds the possibility of being the most valuable, not just in monetary terms but also in cultural and symbolic meaning. Collectors understand that rarity often hides in plain sight. The 2001 cent is not rare by mintage numbers, hundreds of millions were struck and distributed into circulation, making it one of the most common coins of its year. But rarity in numismatics is not just about quantity, it is about condition, errors, and uniqueness. Among the ocean of 2001 cents, there are only a handful of coins that possess these qualities, those struck with dramatic errors, those that remain in nearly perfect mint state, those that carry some distinguishing feature that elevates them above the rest. These are the coins that become legendary, the ones whispered about at coin shows, the ones that create bidding wars in auction rooms, the ones that ignite the imagination of casual hobbyists and seasoned collectors alike. The concept of perfection is particularly powerful. Coins were meant for circulation, not for preservation. They were meant to pass through countless hands, endure scratches and wear, and eventually fade into obscurity. For a 2001 cent to remain untouched, to shine with its original mint luster, to exhibit razor-sharp details and not a single blemish, is nothing short of miraculous. It is the preservation of something meant to be temporary, the freezing of a moment in time. Collectors who encounter such coins see not only the perfection of the piece itself but the improbability of its survival, and that improbability is what drives value. When grading companies award a coin the near-perfect grade of MS69 or the impossible MS70, they are acknowledging this miracle of preservation, and the market responds with fervor. Errors, of course, tell a different story. An error is not perfection, but it is uniqueness. It is a fingerprint of the minting process, a mistake that slipped past the watchful eyes of inspectors, a coin that defied the rules of uniformity. In the 2001 cent series, errors might include off-center strikes, double strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, or double dies. Each error has its own appeal, its own category of collectors who seek it. A dramatically off-center strike might leave Lincoln's portrait split across the coin, creating a surreal piece of art by accident. A doubled die might make the words "In God We Trust" appear as if echoing, a ghost-like reminder of the minting mishap. A clipped planchet might remove a section of the coin entirely, leaving a crescent-shaped gap that transforms the coin into something utterly unique. Each of these errors is a story, a one-of-a-kind artifact that cannot be replicated, and collectors will pay staggering sums for the privilege of owning such stories. It is within this context that the legendary valuation of $375 million emerges. It is not that every 2001 cent is worth such a figure, but that the mythology of one extraordinary specimen has created a narrative so powerful that it elevates the entire series. Perhaps it was a coin struck on the wrong planchet, a coin in perfect condition, or a coin with a never-before-seen error. Perhaps it was sold privately to a collector whose wealth made the price irrelevant, whose only desire was to own the ultimate rarity. Whatever the origin, the number has entered the lore of numismatics, becoming a beacon that draws collectors into the chase. It is less about the coin itself and more about what it represents, the possibility that a penny, a single cent, could hold within it the power to rival the world's most valuable artifacts. This possibility is what fuels the dream of discovery. Ordinary people search through their pocket change, inspect coins with magnifying glasses, and weigh them on small digital scales, hoping to find the one coin that changes everything. Stories of life-changing discoveries are not uncommon in coin collecting. Someone finds a rare double die cent in their change, another uncovers an error penny in a jar that sat forgotten for decades, another realizes that a coin they thought worthless is in fact a treasure worth thousands or millions. Each of these stories reinforces the idea that the extraordinary hides within the ordinary, and the 2001 cent is the perfect embodiment of that idea. The coin also carries the weight of its time. Struck in the first year of the new millennium, the 2001 cent symbolizes continuity in a world that was rapidly changing. As America entered the 21st century, technology was revolutionizing communication, business, and culture, yet the penny remained unchanged, a humble constant amidst the storm of progress. It was a reminder that some traditions endure, that some symbols remain steady. The image of Lincoln, the memorial, the words "In God We Trust," liberty, and "E pluribus unum," all of these elements connected the nation's past to its present, binding generations together through a small coin that most people carried without thought. For collectors, this continuity adds depth, turning the 2001 cent into more than just money, but into a token of heritage. The Denver Mint itself is part of this heritage. Every D-Mint mark stamped on the coin connects it to Colorado, to a facility that has been striking coins for the United States for over a century. The Denver Mint has produced countless coins, yet each one carries the identity of its origin. For the 2001 cent, the D is more than a letter, it is a signature, a mark of authenticity, a reminder of where the coin began its journey. Collectors cherish mint marks because they anchor coins to specific places and histories, and in the case of Denver, the D has become an iconic symbol in its own right. The symbolic weight of Lincoln himself deepens the coin's appeal even further. Few figures in American history carry the same universal respect and admiration as Abraham Lincoln. His leadership during the Civil War, his moral courage in issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, his eloquence in the Gettysburg Address, and his tragic assassination all combine to create a legacy that transcends politics and time. To carry his image in your pocket is to carry a reminder of those ideals, and to collect coins bearing his portrait is to honor his memory in a tangible way. The 2001 cent, then, is not just about rarity or errors, it is about carrying the weight of Lincoln's legacy in your hand, a legacy that collectors value deeply. In the grand scheme of numismatics, the 2001 cent represents both the allure of the hobby and the heights to which it can soar. It reminds us that collecting is not just about wealth or rarity, but about connection to history, to art, to culture, and to the stories that objects tell. The staggering value attached to certain specimens of this coin is not just a reflection of metal or minting, but a reflection of human imagination and desire. People see in the coin not just a penny but a symbol of possibility, and it is this possibility that keeps the fascination alive. When we explore the deeper significance of the 2001 Lincoln cent, it becomes clear that its appeal goes far beyond the simple notion of money. It embodies a narrative that intertwines American history, minting technology, collector psychology, and even the unpredictable forces of chance. For many people, the penny is a symbol of luck. Think of the common phrase, find a penny, pick it up, and all day you'll have good luck. The 2001 cent, particularly those rare and perfect specimens, carries this idea to an extreme. Imagine finding a coin that doesn't just bring you good fortune for the day but transforms your entire life, a penny that unlocks wealth greater than most people could ever dream of. This fantasy fuels the global obsession with rare coins, and the 2001 cent has become one of the shining examples of how legends form around even the smallest objects. The weight of the coin, about 2.5 grams in its standard copper-plated zinc composition, might seem unremarkable, yet in that tiny measurement rests an entire story of economic shifts. For much of the 20th century, pennies were made of a higher copper content, but rising costs led to changes in 1982. By the time the 2001 cent rolled off the presses, the coin had already been transformed into a lightweight piece with only a thin shell of copper surrounding a zinc core. This detail might seem trivial to a casual observer, but to a collector, every aspect matters. The weight tells us what era the coin belongs to, what materials were used, and how it reflects the economic pressures of its time. For those who handle these coins every day, the difference in weight between an older copper cent and the later zinc cent is tangible, a subtle reminder that even the smallest coin cannot escape the influence of larger economic forces. The design, of course, is another layer of meaning. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln, introduced in 1909, had already passed its 90th anniversary by the time the 2001 cent was minted. To think that a design could endure nearly a century with so few changes is a testament to its power and timelessness. Brenner captured more than a likeness, he captured an ideal, an image that spoke to leadership, dignity, and the enduring values of the nation. The reverse, showing the Lincoln Memorial, was itself a design steeped in symbolism, connecting the man to the monument that honored him, a structure built to immortalize his contributions to American unity and freedom. By 2001, collectors already knew the memorial reverse would not last forever, as changes to the cent's reverse were on the horizon. Thus, the 2001 cent occupies a transitional space, still bearing the memorial but existing in an era when change was inevitable, making it both familiar and poignant. In the numismatic world, context is everything. The year 2001 itself adds depth to the story of the coin. The early 2000s were a time of transition, not only for currency but for society at large. America was straddling the line between the 20th and 21st centuries, grappling with technological revolutions, cultural shifts, and the challenges of globalization. The penny remained unchanged, a small anchor in a world that felt increasingly uncertain. This sense of continuity, of carrying something unchanged from generation to generation, is part of the allure of the Lincoln cent. It was the coin your grandparents used, your parents used, and you yourself used, linking people across decades through a single shared object. Collectors often speak of this intergenerational bond, of how coins serve as physical connections to loved ones and ancestors. The 2001 cent, though young in comparison to older coins, still plays this role, tying the modern collector to the history that came before it. The Denver Mint itself deserves a closer look, for its reputation adds weight to the 2001 cent's identity. Coins struck in Denver have long been known for their crisp details and strong strikes, making them favorites among collectors seeking quality. When you hold a 2001 cent, you are holding a piece of that tradition, a coin that passed through a facility with a history as rich as the coins it produced. Denver has seen the evolution of American coinage firsthand, producing everything from silver dollars to clad quarters to modern cents, and each coin carries with it the legacy of the mint that produced it. To collectors, the D Mint mark is not just a letter but a badge of honor, a signal that the coin is part of a long and proud lineage. It is also worth noting how coins like the 2001 cent become icons in the marketplace. The valuation of $375 million, whether tied to a singular specimen or to mythologized reports, captures imaginations precisely because it feels both unbelievable and tantalizingly possible. We live in a world where collectors have paid staggering amounts for rare stamps, rare paintings, rare diamonds, and rare sports cards. Why not a coin? A single penny, if it is unique enough, could indeed command such sums. And once the story circulates, once collectors whisper about a coin worth hundreds of millions, the legend grows larger than life. This legend fuels markets, drives interest, and elevates even ordinary 2001 cents into objects of curiosity. Every time someone looks at their change and sees that mint mark, they wonder, could this be the one? Could this penny be the key to fortune? That sense of possibility is priceless in itself, and it ensures the 2001 cents place in coin collecting lore. We must also consider the human side of collecting. Coins are not just metal discs, they are pieces of history that people bond with emotionally. The 2001 cent is tied to memories of childhood piggy banks, of first allowances, of coins saved for candy or soda. It is tied to the rhythm of everyday life, the clink of change in a pocket, the sound of pennies dropping into a jar. When collectors seek out rare specimens of the 2001 cent, they are not only chasing wealth, they are chasing nostalgia, chasing the comfort of holding a piece of their past. This emotional connection amplifies value in ways that numbers alone cannot measure. The artistry of the coin, though often overlooked, also plays a role. Consider the fine lines of Lincoln's hair, the sharpness of his gaze, the way the words liberty and I in God we trust curve gracefully around his profile. These details are miniature works of art, created through the collaboration of engravers, designers, and craftsmen. To hold a 2001 cent is to hold a piece of art, mass-produced yet still beautiful in its precision. For collectors who appreciate artistry, the penny is as worthy of admiration as any painting or sculpture, a tiny canvas carrying immense meaning. All of these layers, the history, the symbolism, the errors, the condition, the mint, the myth of extraordinary value, combine to create a perfect storm of fascination. The 2001 cent becomes not just a coin but a story, and stories are what drive human interest. We do not simply collect metal, we collect narratives, connections, and dreams. The penny embodies all of this, making it one of the most compelling collectibles in the entire numismatic world. As we journey even deeper into the story of the 2001 Lincoln cent, one of the most fascinating elements is how this coin functions as both a common artifact and a legendary treasure. To millions of Americans in 2001 and the years that followed, it was just a penny, tossed into a cash register, handed over in change at a grocery store, or left forgotten in the cushions of a car seat. And yet, within this massive population of coins exists the possibility of uniqueness so great, of rarity so profound, that one specimen could rise above the rest to achieve a status beyond comprehension. This duality, the ordinary versus the extraordinary, is what makes coins so compelling. Every coin has the potential to be a miracle hiding in plain sight, and the 2001 cent is perhaps the greatest modern example of that paradox. Collectors and historians often describe coins as time machines, small metal links to the year in which they were created. When you hold a 2001 cent, you are holding a tangible piece of the year 2001, a year remembered for milestones, transitions, and dramatic events. The dawn of the new millennium had just passed, the world was buzzing with excitement over technology and globalization, and yet by the fall of that year, America and the world faced one of the most defining tragedies of modern times. Through it all, the penny circulated quietly, moving from hand to hand, a silent witness to history. This is one of the most powerful aspects of coinage. It does not just represent value, it absorbs memory. The 2001 cent, therefore, is not simply a piece of money, it is a witness to the hopes, fears, and stories of an entire era within the collecting community. The thrill of hunting for rare examples of this coin cannot be overstated. Entire groups of hobbyists dedicate their time to searching through rolls of pennies from banks, examining each one under magnification, weighing them on scales, and testing them with precision instruments. They are looking for the anomalies, the coins that slip through the cracks of the minting process. One collector might stumble upon a doubled die, where letters and numbers appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die. Another might find an off-center strike, where Lincoln's portrait is shifted dramatically to one side. Another might discover a coin struck on a transitional or wrong planchet, such as a foreign coin blank accidentally fed into the press. Each of these discoveries is rare, but their possibility keeps the pursuit alive, turning every handful of pennies into a potential treasure hunt. The value of $375 million attached to one specimen of the 2001 cent may sound unbelievable to the casual observer, but in numismatics, stories often outgrow their origins. The market is driven not just by intrinsic rarity but by perception, desire, and the willingness of collectors to pay for exclusivity. In some cases, wealthy collectors with near limitless resources push the boundaries of value, outbidding each other until prices reach astronomical levels. When such events occur, they rewrite the narrative of what is possible. Suddenly, the idea of a penny commanding hundreds of millions of dollars is no longer dismissed as fantasy but embraced as a legend, and legends are what fuel the passion of collecting. It is also important to remember that value is not always tied strictly to rarity, it is also tied to symbolism. The 2001 cent represents more than money, it represents Abraham Lincoln's enduring legacy, the ideals of freedom and unity, the artistry of American coinage, and the continuation of a tradition that began in 1909. To own a rare specimen of this coin is to own a fragment of that story, a fragment of history itself. For some collectors, that symbolic ownership is worth far more than gold or diamonds. This is why coins, small though they may be, often rival or surpass the world's greatest works of art in terms of value. They are not just objects, they are icons. When we consider the specifics of the 2001 cent, even its most basic details become fascinating under scrutiny. The coin's composition, 97.5% zinc with a thin copper coating, reflects the economic realities of its era, when rising copper prices forced the US Mint to adopt cheaper materials. The weight of 2.5 grams is not simply a measurement, it is a coded marker of this transition, distinguishing modern cents from their heavier predecessors. The Mint Mark D, small though it may be, ties the coin directly to the Denver Mint, a facility with its own storied history of producing coins that have traveled the globe. And the design itself, Lincoln's solemn profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, anchors the coin to ideals of leadership, unity, and remembrance. These details might seem minor individually, but together they form a mosaic of meaning that elevates the coin beyond its face value. For many collectors, the pursuit of a 2001 D cent in pristine condition is as thrilling as the hunt for error varieties. A coin graded at the top of the scale, MS68, MS69, or the elusive MS70, is an object of beauty and rarity. Such coins, preserved as if frozen in time, gleam with luster, their details sharp and flawless. They are testaments to the precision of the minting process and the improbability of survival without blemish. Finding one is akin to discovering perfection itself, and perfection always commands a premium. It is not surprising, then, that even without dramatic errors, the highest graded specimens of the 2001 D cent have captured attention and fetched impressive prices on the open market, and yet, the fascination goes beyond economics or grading. The 2001 D cent embodies a psychological allure, tapping into the human love of possibility. Every time someone examines their change and sees that tiny D below the date, they are reminded of the stories, the rumors, the whispers of a coin worth hundreds of millions. They may never find it, but the possibility is intoxicating. It is this possibility that sustains the hobby, that transforms a simple act like checking your pocket change into an adventure. Collectors often speak of the what-if factor, the spark of excitement that comes from knowing that the extraordinary may be hiding in the ordinary. The 2001 D cent epitomizes that spark, making it one of the most captivating coins of its generation. The endurance of the Lincoln cent design also adds to the mythology of the 2001 D coin. By 2001, it had been over 90 years since Brenner's portrait first appeared, and though America had changed dramatically, Lincoln's image remained steadfast. It was a reminder that certain symbols are eternal, that certain values do not fade with time. To hold a 2001 D cent was to hold a continuation of that legacy, to participate in a tradition that linked the early 20th century to the modern age. This continuity adds depth to the coin's narrative, ensuring that it will always be more than just a piece of change. Ultimately, the story of the 2001 D cent is a story about potential. Potential for discovery, potential for wealth, potential for connection. It is a story that captures the imagination not only of collectors but of anyone who has ever dreamed of finding treasure in unexpected places. Whether through dramatic minting errors, pristine condition, or sheer symbolic weight, the coin stands as proof that greatness can be hidden in the smallest of forms. And for that reason, the 2001 D Lincoln cent will continue to inspire, intrigue, and captivate for generations to come. The story of the 2001 D Lincoln cent becomes even more captivating when we reflect on how small physical differences can mean monumental financial differences. Imagine holding two pennies side by side, both struck in 2001 at the Denver Mint, both weighing 2.5 grams, both with Lincoln's proud profile and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. To the untrained eye, they are identical. But in the subtle world of numismatics, one of those pennies could be worth a single cent, while the other, due to an almost imperceptible difference, could be valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. That contrast is what draws people into the hunt. It transforms ordinary pocket change into a field of endless possibility, a treasure map where every coin could be an X marking the spot. Consider the fascination with mint errors once again. Each error is a quirk of fate, a deviation from the perfect process. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of cents in 2001, each intended to be uniform, flawless in their design. But perfection on such a scale is impossible. Machines misalign, planchets slip, dies crack, and in those moments of imperfection, uniqueness is born. Collectors cherish these imperfections because they are windows into the hidden drama of coin production. When a double die produces ghost-like shadows on the lettering, or an off-center strike cuts Lincoln's face in half, the coin becomes more than money. It becomes an accident frozen in time, a rarity that tells a story no other coin can tell. And when that rarity is combined with perfect preservation or dramatic error severity, the price can climb into the realm of the unbelievable, fueling stories of multi-million-dollar sales. But even without errors, the 2001 D cent holds an almost magnetic pull. There is something profoundly symbolic about the Lincoln cent, especially one minted at the start of the 21st century. It is a coin that bridges centuries, carrying a design born in 1909 into a new millennium. This continuity reminds us that while technology, politics, and culture may shift rapidly, some symbols remain constant. Lincoln's profile is more than an image, it is a message. It speaks of leadership, of sacrifice, of unity in times of division. The reverse design, showing the Lincoln Memorial, ties the coin to a monument that itself is a symbol of national healing. Together, obverse and reverse tell a story of resilience, and in the context of 2001, a year of global and national upheaval, that story feels especially powerful. The coin's weight and composition also become part of its legacy. The shift from copper to copper-plated zinc in 1982 was not just a technical decision but a reflection of broader economic forces. Rising copper prices made the traditional penny too expensive to produce, forcing the U.S. Mint to adapt. By the time the 2001 cent was struck, the lighter zinc-based coin had become the standard. In this way, the coin is a snapshot of economic reality. Each time you feel its lightweight 2.5 grams in your hand, you are reminded that even the smallest denomination responds to the forces of supply, demand, and market shifts. For collectors, this detail adds another layer of fascination. It means that every 2001 cent is not just a coin, but an artifact that reflects the economy of its time. The legendary valuation of $375 million tied to this coin is not about logic, it is about mythology. Numbers this large cannot be rationalized by metal content, production cost, or even condition. Instead, they arise from stories of rarity, of mystery, of wealthy collectors willing to pay any price to own something no one else has. Once a story like this circulates, it becomes part of the coin's identity. People may argue over whether the valuation is literal or symbolic, but it doesn't matter. The story itself is enough to keep the fascination alive. When collectors hear that a single penny has sold or is rumored to be worth hundreds of millions, they cannot help but imagine themselves finding one. This imagination drives searches, fuels markets, and keeps the 2001 cent in constant conversation among enthusiasts. The human psychology behind this fascination is just as important as the coin itself. Humans are drawn to the idea of hidden treasure, of ordinary objects with extraordinary secrets. It is why pirate legends endure, why stories of lost cities and buried gold continue to captivate. The 2001 cent is a modern version of that same allure. It whispers to people that greatness might be hiding in their pockets, that unimaginable wealth could be found in the most mundane place. This whisper keeps people searching, keeps them hoping, and keeps the legend alive. Beyond psychology, there is artistry. The Lincoln cent is not just currency but a work of miniature art. Brenner's design, with its fine details and timeless simplicity, has been admired for over a century. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, with its symmetry and symbolism, adds to that artistry. To study a 2001 cent closely is to appreciate this craftsmanship. The lines of Lincoln's face, the careful engraving of the words Liberty and In God We Trust, the precise rendering of the memorial, all of it reflects human effort and artistry on a microscopic scale. In the world of art collecting, rarity and beauty combine to create immense value, and coins are no different. The 2001 cent, with its artistry, rarity, and symbolism, fits naturally into this tradition of valuable artifacts. For those who chase the highest grades, the 2001 cent also offers a tantalizing challenge. Mint state coins with grades above MS67 are scarce, and each step higher represents an exponential jump in value. A coin graded MS69 or MS70 is considered nearly perfect, with flawless luster and strike. These are the specimens that collectors dream of, specimens that could command staggering sums at auction. And when combined with rarer varieties, the appeal becomes almost irresistible. A 2001 cent with a dramatic error, preserved in near-perfect condition, is the kind of coin that can ignite bidding wars and make headlines. At its core, the story of the 2001 cent is not just about a coin but about possibility. It is about the possibility that an object so small, so overlooked, can hold within it a world of meaning and value. It is about the possibility that treasure still exists in everyday life, waiting to be discovered by anyone willing to look closely enough. It is about the possibility that history, art, economics, and human imagination can converge in a single coin. And above all, it is about the possibility that what we dismiss as ordinary may, in fact, be extraordinary. This is why the legend of the 2001 Lincoln cent will endure. Long after the stories of its million-dollar valuations fade, long after the debates over its true rarity have been settled, the coin will continue to captivate. Because ultimately, it represents something timeless, the dream that hidden among the countless pennies of the world, there might be one that changes everything. The deeper one goes into the saga of the 2001 Lincoln cent, the more one realizes that it is not simply about metal and mint marks, but about storytelling, about how human beings assign meaning and value to objects that most of the world dismisses. The penny has always been considered the lowest form of American currency, so small in value that many people leave them behind in convenience store trays or toss them into jars without thought. And yet, within this overlooked denomination lies one of the most fascinating treasures in numismatic history. The 2001 descent demonstrates perfectly that it is not the face value of an object that matters, but the story, the rarity, the symbolism, and the imagination it inspires. Think about the way this coin circulates. It passes unnoticed through countless hands, across counters, into pockets, and out again. It buys gum, it rests at the bottom of soda machines, it jingles among quarters and nickels. And in this unremarkable journey, it hides in plain sight, concealing the possibility that one particular example could be worth more than entire fortunes, worth more than castles, yachts, or works of art. This duality is part of the magic of coin collecting. It transforms the everyday into the extraordinary, the common into the legendary. When someone learns that a penny might be worth hundreds of millions, they never look at change the same way again. Every coin becomes a potential key to life-changing discovery. The Denver Mint, where this coin originates, has always been a powerhouse of American coinage. Known for producing coins with strong strikes and immense output, Denver is symbolized by the small letter D that sits beneath the date. That single letter is a gateway to an entire history of minting excellence. When collectors see it on a 2001 cent, they are reminded of Denver's role in supplying the nation with coins that are not just currency but cultural artifacts. Each D-Mint mark is a stamp of identity, marking the coin as a child of the Rocky Mountain Mint, a facility that has witnessed America's evolution for generations. The year 2001 itself adds further layers of meaning. At the beginning of the year, optimism about the new millennium was still fresh. Technology was advancing at an unprecedented pace, the world seemed poised for transformation, and people carried their pennies into this era of rapid change. But as the year unfolded, history shifted dramatically. The events of September brought a deep sense of loss and transformation to the United States. Suddenly, even the smallest tokens of daily life, like coins, took on new weight as silent witnesses to a changed nation. To hold a 2001 descent is to hold a piece of that turbulent year, to carry a reminder of the resilience of everyday life in the face of monumental change. This context makes the coin far more than a piece of metal, it makes it a vessel of memory. Collectors often describe the thrill of the hunt as one of the most addictive aspects of numismatics. The 2001 descent has become a cornerstone of that thrill, because it embodies possibility. Imagine sitting with a roll of pennies from the bank, unwrapping it slowly, coin by coin, inspecting each under a magnifying glass. The repetition may seem mundane, but for collectors it is electric, because at any moment the ordinary could transform into the extraordinary. That one coin with an off-center strike, that one coin with a double die, that one coin in pristine mint state, any of these could be the discovery of a lifetime. And when stories circulate of a single 2001 D penny valued at $375 million, the electricity of the hunt intensifies. Each search becomes not just a hobby but a chance at destiny. The artistry of the Lincoln cent must not be forgotten in this discussion. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln is one of the most enduring designs in American numismatics. His vision, carved into the steel dies more than a century ago, continues to command respect for its simplicity and power. Lincoln's gaze on the obverse of the coin is steady, dignified, and timeless. The reverse, featuring the Lincoln Memorial, connects the coin not just to the man but to the monument built to honor him. This combination of portrait and memorial creates a dialogue between individual leadership and collective memory, between man and monument. When one studies a 2001 descent, they are not simply looking at a face in a building, they are looking at a narrative of American identity captured in miniature form. The condition of a coin plays perhaps the most decisive role in determining its value. Most 2001 descents entered circulation and show the inevitable signs of wear, scratches, discoloration, nicks from handling. But a rare few escaped into collectors' hands immediately, or were preserved in rolls and sets, untouched by human circulation. These coins, when discovered in pristine condition, gleaming with full luster and sharp detail, become treasures in their own right. A perfect coin, graded at MS69 or MS70, is a phenomenon of rarity. To own such a coin is to own an almost flawless artifact of minting, a specimen that elevates itself far above its billions of brothers. And when combined with error features, this perfection becomes something almost mythical, capable of commanding prices that defy belief. It is this combination of rarity, perfection, symbolism, and myth that sustains the extraordinary value stories around the 2001 descent. To some, $375 million may seem an exaggeration, a fantasy conjured by rumor. But even if the number itself is debated, the power of the legend is undeniable. Legends have a way of becoming self-fulfilling, of breathing life into the market. Collectors believe in the story, they chase the possibility, they are willing to pay vast sums to own a piece of the myth. In this way, the legend of the 2001 descent is as valuable as the coin itself, because it is the legend that drives the hunt, the legend that elevates the coin from currency to icon. The heart of all this is the human imagination. Coins like the 2001 descent remind us that value is not fixed in metal but created in minds. A penny may weigh 2.5 grams of copper-plated zinc, but to the right collector, with the right story, it may weigh as much as history itself. Its worth is not in what it is made of but in what it represents: freedom, continuity, artistry, rarity, and the tantalizing possibility of unimaginable wealth. That is why collectors continue to talk about it, continue to seek it, continue to dream about finding it. Because in the end, the 2001 Lincoln cent is not just a coin, it is a dream pressed into metal, a dream small enough to fit in your hand but vast enough to change your life forever. As we come to the end of this incredible exploration of the 2001 Lincoln cent, it becomes clear that this coin is more than just a piece of copper-plated zinc struck at the Denver Mint. It is a symbol, a witness to history, a canvas of artistry, and a vessel of imagination that continues to fascinate and inspire. The weight of the coin may be only 2.5 grams, yet the weight of the story it carries is immeasurable. Every groove in the rim, every letter in the motto, every detail of Lincoln's profile whispers of history, of the persistence of a nation, and of the potential hidden in the ordinary, the legend of its extraordinary value, reaching the unbelievable figure of $375 million, demonstrates the power of narrative in shaping how people see objects. A penny is supposed to be small, overlooked, unimportant, but through the collector's eye and the storyteller's voice, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a fortune, a prize, a symbol of luck and destiny. This transformation shows that human beings are not bound by numbers stamped into metal. Instead, we are guided by meaning, rarity, and imagination. We can take what the world calls insignificant and elevate it into something legendary. Think for a moment of the millions of 2001 cents still out there in drawers, jars, wallets, and piggy banks. Any one of them might be the treasure. Any one of them could contain that rare combination of perfection, error, or uniqueness that changes its destiny. Somewhere out there, perhaps in a forgotten roll tucked away in a family attic or in the pocket of a jacket not worn in years, rests a coin that could change someone's life forever. This is what fuels the endless search, the excitement of collectors, the thrill of the hunt that has defined numismatics for centuries. The 2001 cent also reminds us of the importance of preservation. Coins are easy to overlook, easy to spend, easy to let slip away. Yet when someone takes the time to protect, to examine, to cherish, the coin transcends its original function. It becomes an artifact, a story preserved for future generations. This act of care transforms pennies into treasures, not because of the material they are made from, but because of the history and humanity they hold. Every collector, in a way, is a guardian of history, ensuring that the story of the coin is not lost but carried forward into the future. And what a story it is! The year 2001 was filled with change, triumph, tragedy, and resilience. The coins minted that year are silent companions to those events, circulating in the pockets of people who lived through that time. To own a 2001 cent is to own a sliver of that history, to hold in your hand a witness to an unforgettable era. When combined with the artistry of Victor David Brenner's design, with the precision of the Denver Mint, and with the legend of astronomical value, the 2001 penny becomes not just a coin but an icon. The fascination with such coins proves that numismatics is not just a hobby of accumulation, but a way of seeing the world. Collectors see what others miss. They see value in detail, beauty in design, history in wear, and possibility in rarity. They know that behind every coin lies a story waiting to be told, and sometimes that story is worth more than anyone could imagine. The 2001 cent is perhaps the greatest example of this, because it embodies the very idea that something small, simple, and ordinary can, under the right circumstances, become the most extraordinary treasure of all. And so, the legend continues. People will keep searching, keep wondering, keep dreaming about the 2001 Lincoln cent that might hold the key to unimaginable fortune. Every time someone hears the story, a spark is lit, and a new collector begins their journey, opening rolls of pennies with anticipation, examining every detail with hope. The myth of the $375 million penny is not just about money, it is about possibility, about the excitement of believing that the extraordinary can still be found in the most ordinary places. Perhaps that is why the coin endures in fascination. It teaches us to look closer, to value the overlooked, to never underestimate what appears small or insignificant. It teaches us patience, curiosity, and respect for history. It turns a humble cent into a masterpiece of meaning. And even if one never finds the mythical fortune, the journey itself, the hours spent searching, the knowledge gained, the stories told, becomes the real treasure. So the 2001 Lincoln cent is not only a coin, it is a reminder. A reminder that legends are born not in castles or in gold, but in the tiniest details of everyday life. A reminder that history is not distant but carried in our hands, in our pockets, in the coins that pass from person to person. A reminder that dreams can be hidden in the smallest of places, waiting for someone with eyes to see. And above all, it is a reminder that even a penny, the smallest unit of currency, can become priceless in the right light. This is the enduring magic of the 2001 Lincoln cent. This is why it is spoken of in hushed tones, why it is pursued with passion, why its legend of value continues to spread. It is not just about the metal, not just about the mint mark, not just about the grade. It is about what it represents, the possibility of greatness hidden in plain sight. That is why collectors will always chase it, why storytellers will always tell of it, and why dreamers will always dream of it. Because sometimes, in this world, even the smallest coin can hold the biggest story of all.